Phil Kitchamilides, who joins us now. Phil, not exactly a vintage performance, was it, from Spain, but they got the job done in the end.
Yeah, I think you could say that. It wasn't a vintage performance at all. I would go as far as to say it was actually really quite a poor performance from Spain. They'll take positives from it. The greatest of those positives is that they're through to the knockout stages as group winners. So it is, job done. 3 consecutive clean sheets. In theory, you couldn't ask for much more apart from a victory against Cape Verde in the first game. But I think if you analyse this performance tonight, there weren't too many bright sparks in terms of individual performances all over the pitch. We saw players performing under their level. Their only shot on target was the goal, which was an absolute howler. Another one from Muslera, the Uruguayan goalkeeper. And I genuinely don't think that there'll be too many other national teams and fans of other national teams seeing that performance from Spain tonight, and particularly fearing Spain. Of course, they can get better. They will get better, and there will be better performances from Spain. They won tonight, but I didn't think it was great at all.
Phil, good to see you as always. I mean, so much when you talk about Spanish football right now is the health and the progress of Lamine Yamal. What did you make of his performance today? Getting a bit more time on the pitch, but not as effective as the first match where he was able to get a goal.
No, it wasn't, was it, Mike? It wasn't his best performance. When Lamine Yamal plays brilliantly, we'll say he plays brilliantly, and when he plays below his capacities, we'll say that. And tonight wasn't amazing from him. There were a few bright sparks. There were a few nice dribbles. He set up Dani Olmo for what should have been the second goal in the second half with a brilliant run and pass. But he is not quite fully fit. He played 75 minutes today, so they're being really, really careful with him because, as we stress, and we've been stressing on Golazzo Network since basically he got injured nearly 2 months ago. This is an injury with a really, really high percentage chance of relapse. So they're being really careful with him. They don't want to lose him for the rest of the tournament. 75 minutes tonight. A few sort of touches of genius, but not much from Lamine. But it wasn't just him. All over the pitch, people were below par. I think the pitch literally itself didn't help. It wasn't the best pitch. It was a little bit bobbly. It rained a lot. But of course, that's the same for both teams. Having said that, Uruguay were not that interested in playing a huge amount of football for a large part of the game, and they were fouling a lot. They knew that a draw would probably be enough for them to go through. Spain, and here the media here are absolutely furious at how the game was refereed, how the ref allowed lots of fouls to take place and weren't necessarily punished. And actually, I thought it was quite surprising to see Lamine get 75 minutes, given the context of the game. Uruguay were being very, very robust, and Lamine, he got 75 minutes.
Hey, Phil, how are you? I mean, I guess I'm not going to complain about the refereeing because I think it's been a little bit physical, and I think they've been pretty consistent, so I'm okay with that. But what is it about this Spain? I don't see the energy. I don't see the excitement. I'm used to seeing the ball moving and them smiling and going and attacking. I feel like it's just like, okay, it's only the third game of the first round. We don't need to show our best. But it just seems like it's just missing that energy and that flair that we used to see from Spain.
I agree with you, and I think a lot of that comes from the midfield. And I don't want to necessarily pinpoint individuals, but shall we pinpoint some individuals?
Yes, please.
Rodri. I think Rodri is way below his level, light years away from being the Ballon d'Or winner that we saw a couple of years ago. He is slow. He is imprecise with his passing, and we're not used to seeing that. And obviously, he is the sort of engine of this Spain side, and if he's not ticking and firing on all cylinders, you can see that the ball was moved really slow again today, as it was against Cape Verde in the first game, slowly and quite inaccurately for Spain. I was looking at the pass completion statistics. It was 89% for Spain, which might sound quite high. They don't drop below 90%, Spain. They never drop below 90%. So for it to be below 90%, that pass completion rate gives you an idea of how imprecise they were. I thought it was an imprecise performance from Spain. And when they don't move the ball quickly, and Rodri is in part one of the reasons why they didn't move the ball quickly today, they do lack that fluency in attack, that spark. And then the two wingers, who are obviously the two players to give energy down the wings and bring something else in the attack. Well, Nico Williams is just absolutely miles off being fully fit and the player that he was 2 years ago. And Lamine is coming back from an injury, and we didn't see him at his best today. And it's, I guess, a similar story to what we were saying after the first game against Cape Verde. Without those two wingers at their very best, Spain look stodgy. And I think it was a kind of stodgy performance from Spain. The ball was moved very, very slowly. We didn't see too much from either fullbacks as well. You know, if you don't have the two wingers at their best, maybe you need some help from the fullbacks. And Marcos Llorente and Cucurella didn't get forward and provide that kind of attacking outlet down the wings either. And all over the pitch, it was uninspiring from Spain. And yeah, I completely agree. You know, really, really slow from Spain. They got through, and it kind of felt like they knew they were getting through. But at the same time, this is not good enough to be world champions.
Phil, one of the things that we were celebrating, not just the quality in the first 11 for Spain when they won the European Championship, it was the quality off the bench in the Euros. You think of the players that came to impact game after game. I mean, are you concerned or becoming concerned about the lack of quality on this current bench, whether it be fitness issues or just confidence or just technical issues right now?
So tonight, coming off the bench, Dani Olmo came in, and I think he looked okay. You know, of the players that came off the bench, I think he had an impact on the game, and maybe he should have started. I think we thought that he would have started, but Mikel Merino got the nod. Fabian Ruiz coming off the bench and not affecting the game a huge amount. And you're right, Mike. You know, this is not just, when you look at that Spain starting 11, what we've been saying is that it's not a team it's got some really, really top class individuals, but their greatest strength is as a unit, they know how to play together. And as a unit, they're really strong. I'm not sure we've seen that. And, you know, the players who have come off the bench haven't necessarily been able to impact. So for one reason or another. So yeah, I would agree. And going back to the Euros, you know, the players who came off the bench, Dani Olmo didn't start that tournament, but came off the bench to replace Pedri and ended up being brilliant. Mikel Oyarzabal didn't necessarily start, but he replaced Alvaro Morata and he was brilliant. Even Martin Zubimendi in the final had to replace Rodri and he was brilliant. So you're absolutely right to point to that strength in depth in their most recent success in the Euros and compare it to what we've seen in the first 3 games of the World Cup. It hasn't quite been as impactful, the changes from the bench. Absolutely not.
Phil, just quickly, it's Austria or Algeria in the round of 32 for Spain. I know who I'd rather face. Obviously, Algeria were pretty poor against Argentina in that first game. And Austria, I thought so far, have looked fairly good.
Yes, I think Spain will probably echo your sentiments, Adam, and will probably rather face Algeria. I think it's more likely to be Austria, and certainly the Spanish media were setting people up for a game against Austria in the round of 32. But I guess, you know, we kind of know, and Spain kind of know what kind of team they're gonna face. You know, people are gonna sit deep. People are gonna try and be physical and robust and try and get the game inwards and not let you go play out wide. So this is going to be the route now to the final. If Spain want to make it to the latter stages, they're going to have to be able to be breaking down these low blocks and finding solutions, which today they really didn't. You know, the XG today was, you know, not 0.86. It was really, really low, comparable to what they got against Cape Verde as well. One shot on target today. It was the only shot that they managed, and it was an absolute howler from the goalkeeper. So massive improvement from Spain needed if they're to get through against Austria comfortably.
Phil, great stuff as always. It's 4:30 in the morning in Spain, and even by Mediterranean standards, that's a little bit late. So we'll let you get some sleep.